This presentation, titled Overcoming Common Barriers to ISO Standards Implementation, comes to us from IJ Arora. IJ is the president and CEO of Quality Management International, Inc., QMII. He has a 32-year record of achievement in the military, mercantile marine, and civilian industries. IJ serves as a team leader for consulting, advising, auditing, and training in management systems, specializing in several ISO and industry-specific standards. He is an exemplar global certified lead auditor and a member of the U.S. tag to ISO TC 176, the committee responsible for the ISO 9000 family of standards. ISO is a popular speaker at several universities and forums on management systems, conflict management, crisis communication, and leadership, and his writing has appeared in numerous industry publications. And with that, take it away, IJ.
Well, welcome to this presentation. It is my intent to introduce to you how over 30 plus years, Quality Management International Incorporated, QMII, has been working with clients, and in 30 plus years, we have not a single dissatisfied client. So what I want to convey is, it is all because we are looking at overcoming common barriers to ISO standards. And I do want to include the industry specific standards like aerospace, and in the maritime world, the ISM code, which is the safety code, the ISPS code, which is the security code. Let it be any standard. These common barriers are because very often we do not have the management commitment, or the employees have not been brought on board and we don't have their engagement. They are not motivated to be part of this. Or the worst is we go and over document and make a huge, bureaucratically impossible to maneuver quality manual or a quality indication, where that in itself becomes an end and not the good it will do to the system. Audits add no value. They are merely a check mark because you have to do it. And this barrier, I think, is a major barrier, because we do want to see that audits add value and provide the inputs to the top management to make good resource decisions. Non-conformities are not engaged, often perceived as negative. Whereas we have to remember that non-conformities drive correction and corrective action. Non-conforming closed become a data point, and data drives risk and trends. And the other drawback is that top managements think management systems are just an add-on. It's an expense. The utility is not seen. And of course, the last great barrier is the self-incrimination. If I don't get the paperwork, I'll get caught. Let me not even do the act, but make sure my paperwork is complete. That doesn't improve the system. So we want to see how do we go ahead in a systematic manner and remove these common barriers. So what I want to bring from this presentation is how to build and maintain systems to earn strong support and commitment from leaders. The leaders must participate in it. How the system that is used to run the organization can become its process-based system that conforms to the system standard. I have never ever advocated nor done it for my clients where they write a management system to a format clause by clause. That is doomed to failure. So I want you to appreciate this objective. Getting employee buy-in. The employees have a right to ask, what is in it for me? Why are you imposing this on me? And the answer really would be, we are trying to give you a system. As Dr. Deming says, a bad system will let down a good person every time. And I have a modification on that. A good system will enable even an absolute nincompoop to manage for a very long time. So we want to invest in that system approach. It doesn't matter which standard you use, but the system approach is common and we must get the buy-in. Documentation required for an effective system. We do not want an additional system of manuals. That is why the ISO 9001 2015 and the related standards in the new high-level structure format have ensured that the documentation can be integrated and you can get an integrated management system. So we want a system and define the system as parts that work together. We want to subdivide it into key processes and perhaps into support processes, and of course look at a core process. Very often in my experience of looking at consulting systems, I see no core process existing. If I ask the top management, what is your process? He says, I don't have a process, I'm the top management. That is not correct. You do have a process. That process binds all the key processes of the organization and puts them together. And this is required by clause 4.441 of ISO 9001, which says determine the sequence and interaction of the processes in the 441 Bravo. And therefore, you want a core process which interacts all these processes together. I have, over the years, working with Quality Management International Incorporated, come out with these 9 steps by which, and I recommend. So divide it into analyzing the organization's core process. I will often spend a long time with the top management designing the core process. By the key processes. These key processes may divide into key being those which bring in the revenue, which bring in the money, and the support being like invoicing, IT, if it is not IT is not the product at the end of it. So those support processes which don't earn that money, but actually support the key processes in performing. And I like to then assign the process owner, come into details for that, capture the as is of the key process, design the few new key processes, process teams review the flow charts, conduct orientation training so that there is awareness for the top management. There is some kind of orientation training for the all employees so that they know what is going to come. Do this training before you launch the system. Use the system vigorously, use and improve it, measure, audit, review the system, and you will see that the process management system will deliver you the expected results. So in this now, let us look at each of these steps in a little more detail and get an idea of what it is. So analyzing the core process, I think, should be the step one. For example, if you're doing consulting, auditing from the core process. Consulting, start with mapping or recognizing or capturing the core process. So the core process runs through the organization. This is the process which converts the needs of interested parties into cash in the bank, receipt of cash. Now, if you're a federal entity and you're not dealing with cash, this is the process which makes you achieve the designed objective. Whatever the executive lays down is achieved by this core process. This core process encompasses and puts together the key processes. This flow chart shows the interaction of the organization with its customers, interested parties, suppliers, etc. This document mapped core process identifies the sequence and interaction as required by clause 441 Bravo. This approach also reflects the business cycle of the organization to engage top management in the development of the management system. So because it is core, because it relates to the top management, to the leadership, they are able to see their role as leaders, coordinators, risk appreciators, understanding the context of the organization, so that the key processes which flow from the core process will add value. They could be the key processes, which is step 2, could be the marketing and selling, research and designing the products, planning and producing the products, packaging and delivering, invoicing, controlling, or in federal entities and governmental organizations, doing the primary job. The key support processes, if you like to divide them into key and support, sometimes they are all together called key, but I like to divide them. Then the support processes enable the core process to add value. How? By recruiting competent manpower, knowledgeable manpower, training them, controlling the documents and ensuring document control, investing in continual improvement. For example, maintaining your computer network, analyzing the data for preventing non-conformity and recognizing risks, trends. So all this, who's going to do it? It will be the support processes. They may not bring you direct money. If you look at the armed forces, we often call a teeth to tail ratio. So the teeth are the fighting arms and the tail is the logistics. So you like to see what you are investing. As you put your measurable objectives, you could analyze your organization by seeing how much are you investing in your key processes, the teeth, and how much are you investing in your support processes, the tail, and you could get a tail to teeth ratio. Assign process owners. Once you have recognized your key processes, it is important that you assign process owners. There is no hierarchy in this. It's by discussion. You want to get a person who ensuring the key process is accurately documented. Somebody who understands it. Participate in the process analysis. Generally, the consultant or the leader or the system will work with the process owner. And this process owner, he or she, participates in the process design sessions, obtains and reconciles reviews, comments from representatives, etc., is involved in the improvement of his key process. See, it need not be the vice president, the manager only. Sometimes there has been a change and a new manager may have. You don't want to map this process with somebody who hasn't learned it. So assigning a process owner with the help of the management is important. It is important because you are picking up the person who is actually a subject matter expert. But do please remember, the process owner is not responsible for ensuring the process team conforms to the procedure. This is the job of the team members, the supervisors, the managers, the VPs, the seniors, the directors. But this process owner is a pinpointed expert nominated by the team who knows the process well. Now this next aspect, the next step is capture the as is of the key process. Please remember, the Brazilians say, our wine is bitter, but it is ours. So I say, please pick up the as is. Very often in my experience of consulting, when I go to an organization, they will start telling me the changes they have in their mind. They would like to suggest improvements to the process when we are trying to capture it. That is a fictional process. We do not want to start with a fictional process. when you start with a fictional process not in use, please remember, that system is doomed to failure because you haven't established the existing threshold. So the as is rule urges managers and others to deal with the reality, not give us a fictional process, give us how we do it now. Whether it's good or bad is a different matter. And so we will capture the objective of the process. I mean, what is the reason? Why do we do this? Who is involved? What are the inputs? The various tasks, the meeting, the decisions that add value. Outputs from the process will be recognized. Links to essential process documents means that process, which is generally a 30,000 foot view of how things work, will ultimately have to lead down to work instructions, or some organizations call it the SOPs. It may lead to checklists, forms, etc. Sure. But we want to connect all this and we want to capture that process. Note any non-conformities for immediate action. So as you are capturing, if they tend to tell you the fictional, you want to capture the as is and ask them, hey, if you think these are non-conformities, let us capture the non-conformities. But now I want the actual process as it exists. So we will document the process sufficient for control. That is our job in the as is concept. I do want to emphasize this. Please do not capture the fictional process. Capture the as is. Now that you have captured the existing processes, I will say business is business. Some consultants will say the whole system is useless. We want to map it and all. My experience is, if an organization has been running for about 1 year plus, it has a system. And good consultants will capture this system. And when this system is compared with the requirements, including if any statutory requirements, a few gaps will be there. I do not say that the as-is processes are perfect. Let's capture them, we will use them. But the gaps in the system will be very few when we compare with the requirement. So let us capture those gaps and then design a few new key processes to complete the system to ensure continual improvement. So the new key processes are usually specified by the system standard. We interpret the standard that we are using, be it 9001, be it for environment, the 14001, be it for health and safety, 45001, be it the global security chain, ISO 28001, it does not matter. The missing key processes are identified by the gap analysis, take action to stop recurrence of non-conformities, investing in continual improvement, processes and system auditing for effectiveness. So design and using the same technique, whichever you have picked up, and you will find that you will look at the feasibility instead of the as-is rule. In this case, new processes, it will normally take you a little longer because you will have to have a discussion on how can they do it, what is the feasibility of it, the shortcomings. Accordingly, the time is taken to implement the new key processes. The next step, now that you have captured the as is and the few new processes, the key thing now is to send them out to the team for review as a draft key process or support process. The reason is, those who are at the working place, those who are the process owners, those who are supervisors, they may at times be a little out of touch, perhaps. And we may see that at the ground level, there are those who are working in on the shop floors, in the bays. They may have some inputs. So let them review it. I consider this a very important step, because if they make suggestions on the draft process which are actually incorrect, then it is a wonderful input for you to recognize that we need to train them further. So you don't criticize, you let them give you these inputs. Once you have got these inputs, you can design training for them. And if these inputs are useful, when you review the flow charts in the as-is state, you may look at those inaccuracies and include them and improve the process, send out a second draft. Return comments to the process owner by an agreed date, which means they will look at it again. So include all this, send it out again. You may take a month, month and a half, maybe 3 months. Let all the comments come, and it will indicate to you the employee engagement in the system development. Not only does it let you improve your process by capturing everything, but you also get a good input on where your personnel stand, so that you can train them if required. Awareness training and launch. Please do not launch the system as if you are imposing it. Don't call it an ISO system if you can avoid it. Like, for example, for the United States Coast Guard, QMII designed their management system. And we actually did not call it the QMS. We call it the MMS, Mission Management System, which means align the name to the organization so people take ownership of that system. But for them to take ownership and be participants and to accept, you have to see that they are ready for it. And sometimes we launch a system, even though the top management has funded it, they themselves do not understand it. The first step of their learning is when you do and when you capture the core process. The next step is when you formally conduct something called awareness leaders training. That means formally get their 3, 4, 5 hours where they can come with their laptops and machines, and where you, if you are the consultant, can actually work with them to let them capture the system like a workshop, where they look at their policy, etc., maybe create a presentation. Because if they create the presentation themselves, and if it is sent from them to the employees will of course feel it's our system. They will take ownership of it. So let the leaders first understand, train the top leaders to make their own seminar, to make their own presentation, so they can lead the sessions to make employees aware. They may use consultants with them, but this is the stage. This is the 7th step where they should take ownership. They should lead the implementation. So new objectives, how the system works, obligations of the system, how the employees must suggest improvement, impacts of not using the system. What will happen? What will be the losses? We may go out of business. You will lose your jobs, because what can we do if we don't improve? So please remember, impact of not using the system. Here I am always reminded of I don't know how many of you have seen the film or read the book, The Cane Mutiny. Herman Wouk, at one place, he puts in, for the US Navy. Navy is a master plan devised by the genius for execution by idiots. And somebody would say, what is this about the US Navy? It is the most positive statement, because it tells us that if you have a good system, you can pick up a young boy or girl from the heartland of America, put him on that aircraft carrier, put him on a nuclear submarine, and he performs because the system is strong. So we have to explain it to the employees that we are trying to create a system which will work, which will help you. You should be able to explain, answer their question, what is in it for me as leaders, as the top management, by telling them we are trying to remove the blame culture. We want to come to a stage where we do not, when things go wrong, say who. Oh, that Peter. Oh, that Christine. Oh, that so and so. No, we want to ask how and why, and not who. So when you ask who, you can say to yourself as a conclusion, you do not have a system. If top managements are shouting and making noise and blaming people, the system is not working. If you think your system is working, you should be asking how and why. Yes, sure, there are incompetent employees, but it's no point blaming one or the other. Then you should improve again and change your process for hiring, the matrix. Unless you change the process, you will keep hiring, firing, and never stabilize. So, how employees suggest improvement, impact of not using the system, benefits, promise reports on system performance, that you will keep them updated. The employees basically need to see evidence of top management commitment to the system. What will they get out of it? All right. Having done this, please then train your employees. Having trained your employees, having oriented them, brought them on board, conducted that familiarization, please use and improve the system. This is the system that is used to run the business. Please remember, it is not a discrete subsystem, or that ISO, etc., is not just to meet a requirement. You want to actually use it. You don't want to waste your money. So update the orientation package for new employees, so when they join, they know right away that we have a system, we are committed to the system, we need to know the system, we need to understand the system and work on it, so that it helps process teams to do better. We want our organization to think systematically and refer to the business system daily in meetings, designs, work, managing changes. Demand the information needed from the system for timely and better informed decision. Please see the last one. You can only do this if your internal auditing system is strong. Might I be permitted to say ruthless? You want in-house audits to be strict, swear, and capture the non-conformities. But a caution, not non-conformities based on the whims and fancies of auditors, but genuine non-conformities meeting the definition requirements, that a non-conformity is the non-fulfillment of an objective, non-fulfillment of a requirement, a policy, a directive. You can sum it up as non-fulfillment of a requirement. So stop blaming people for problems and start blaming the system. Improve the system, invest in your system. Keep users informed of the benefits of the system. Publicly recognize the problem-solving teams. Please remember, root cause analysis is inherent to a well-run, functioning, providing return on investment kind of a management system. Therefore, if you're doing root cause analysis, some is simple, the department can do it. Others are complex or difficult or have other departmental involvements. So you may have to have a problem-solving team. You have to train them. We have the Ford Motor Company's 8D method, the basic 5Y method, or you may find, for example, it's complex or the design is already ready. You may do FMEA, failure mode effects and analysis. You could look at mistake proofing your system. So there are various tools and methods you could do root cause analysis with using a team. do appreciate these teams when they give you return. By using the system and the organization of complying with regulations, please remember, because you may arbitrarily not meet a requirement, but if you have a system, you will. After you've got a certificate, if you opt for the certificate, please don't sit on your laurels and say, we have the certificate, now we don't have to do anything. Keep the certificate at all costs? No. Your intent is that your management system must provide you the desired results. It must be a return on investment. You should be able to see your measurable objectives being met. You want to see continual improvement in the system. Please note, I did not say continuous, continual, because continuous is like a military order. What happened today? What happened tomorrow? We want to do periodic reviews. We want those steady paces on which we review. Maybe, for example, quarterly, 6 monthly, annually. So we want continual improvement at periodic intervals so that the system is not kind of put under pressure, but continually improved. All right. So therefore, to be able to see this, we want to measure, audit, review the system. We are really using the PDCA cycle: plan, do, check, act. At the plan stage, you have appreciated the risks, the context of the organization, and so on. And you have made a good plan. You have captured the as is. You have compared it to the requirements. Having compared it to the requirements, you've captured the few shortcomings. Based on that, you have a few new procedures. Put the existing procedures and the few new procedures together, you have a system. You have now gone to the D stage and implemented the system. System is being vigorously used. Come to the check stage of the PDCA cycle. And this stage, you must measure, audit, review the system. Of course, the primary inputs come from audits, but that's not all. Results of inspections, customer feedback, industry norms, any accidents anywhere else in the industry, you take cognizance of it. So, committed managers support measurable objectives. Look at customer satisfaction from sales, etc., product conformity, core process performance, supplier performance, employee engagement, deploying regulations, impact of significant aspects, etc. So look at every aspect at the check stage. Focus your well-trained auditors on auditing the key processes. Ensure management reviews are conducted. Look at non-conformities. Look at them carefully at the check stage. And before you go to the management review, which is the act stage, you should have taken care of most of the non-conformities. Those which you cannot because of resources would be the input to the top management, to the leadership at the act stage. And then, of course, they will provide you the resources or take the risk and not provide the resources. So this measure, audit, review the system is a great input for the top management. Best performing management systems, they are therefore process-based. They cut across departments. I see processes drawn, siloed, who reports to who. No, that's not the best process. The best process encompasses the entire team. Let it be anybody who's involved is captured in that process if they contribute. You want to meet the requirements faster, you want to cut across departments. We are not looking at over-documenting. Document lightly to the extent necessary for control. Process controls, resources, objectives, address requirements, including regulations, statutory requirements, etc. So we want to look at processes. Please remember, the processes are not etched in stone. as the time goes and you use them, a proactive organization updates its processes as required. Please remember, many times we say you must follow the process. Yes, at lower levels, but at the top levels, they too follow the process. But if I asked a question, is it more important to follow the process or do the correct thing? I would hope the answer is do the correct thing, which means if your process is not letting you do the correct thing, you must put up those inputs to the top management so we can update the processes. So continually improve the processes selected. And of course, I've given you the 5 whys and 6 sigma and other uses. Use any tools, including FMEA, mistake proofing, 8D method, and get to the root causes so that your processes continue to deliver confirming products and services. At the end of it, what you give to the customer must be a confirming product. This definition you must have. Many a time I see organizations, they have not even defined the product. I've been to a military maritime academy abroad. I visited them. I was consulting with the government, and I went to this academy and I asked them, what is your product? What do you do? They said this academy was set up to bring revenue to the government. So our product is how much money we make, which means in the mercantile marine, you put more people in the class. So I did see 45, 50 people in a class, and I asked them and I advised them and I consulted and I said, you have not defined the product. Product is not that money in the bank in this case. Your product is a successful candidate who leaves this place and finds jobs in those merchant companies. Once he does, more will come. You will continue to get business. That money you make is a consequence of your product meeting the requirement. So please remember, the product must meet the requirement. And for the product to consistently meet the requirement, you must have a system in place. The system, in summing up, I would say, would be a core process. The core process would be comprising of the key and support processes. These will be based on some of the as is, will be compared to requirements, a few more, all put together, and the system will work. I wish you the very best. I hope that your management systems meet these requirements and you are able to use these steps to achieve the success expected by your leadership, top management, and organizations. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
And thank you, IJ Arora, for that wonderful perspective on how to overcome the barriers to management system standard implementation. And that concludes this presentation.